Hey, good evening and welcome to the 401 Sports Report. It's our good friend David Rubin is back with us tonight here on a Wednesday night. We're going to talk. We're going to talk about 401 Sports. We're going to, of course, talk about the Mets. I'm going to pick David's brain a little bit about 19th century players. So, David, welcome back to the
Hey,
Utopian Baseball universe.
thanks, Joe. Appreciate it. To everybody who celebrated Hanukkah recently, happy Hanukkah. To all my friends and myself and my family celebrating Christmas coming up, Merry Christmas. Most importantly, because I won't be on next week, happy and healthy New Year, folks. Please be careful. All
All
right.
right,
And if you see by my name, it's now David and the Lockout Rubin.
nice.
Yes. So
Day
unfortunately,
14.
yeah, it won't happen until they won't even, from what I read today, they're not even going to be talking until early January about the financial aspect, which I knew. Figuring with spring training coming, that will probably be the guidepost for them. The first day of pitchers and catchers reporting. That's probably going to be the first guidepost for them that they're going to try to beat. If they don't make that, they'll probably try to hit for the first game. The owners don't want to lose money from exhibition games. Those are pure profit for these guys. So it also helps keep the minor league teams afloat. Then one thing they don't want to do is have to put any additional capital into teams that they don't own. So see what happens. It's going to be interesting. Billionaires and millionaires fighting about money,
Yeah,
and
I
we
mean
lose. And we lose.
it's weird to think that this is a tech. I mean, obviously we had a work stoppage in '95 with the
Mm-hmm.
strike. But this is the first
94.
lockout in 31 years.
Yeah.
So it's really only the second lockout since I've been a fan.
Right. Well, and Melissa Sotomayor was brought in as the arbitrator to end it when she did a great job, thank God. But there's Uh, don't get me started on Rob Manfred at MLB. I don't want to speak badly of anybody. It's not in my nature. So I'll just say I'm not happy, and I hope for the best. Let's put it that way.
Well, that's fair. So yeah, we
Yeah,
are in day 14 of the lockout, and hopefully after the first of the year, it can end pretty quickly, and we can get a full 2022 Major League Baseball campaign.
right.
Because I know as Mets fans, we're excited. We don't have a manager yet. We'll get to that later
Yeah.
in the show. But David, since it's been a couple weeks, tell us what's going on in the world of 401 sports.
Sure. Well, obviously, we're not doing too many baseball IPOs right now, right? Because baseball season's not happening, and with the winter meetings not happening, we don't have the player movement to kind of bring the excitement to the IPOs right now. However, the IPOs that are already out are moving crazy. Your boy Corbin Burns is up to crazy numbers. He's doing people who bought him have, I believe, tripled their investment. So if they bought him at, I think it was either $4 or $6, it's somewhere between 12 and 16 now. I mean, crazy numbers. It's great. It's all user movement. They decide they like this guy and they believe in him and they'll keep buying it. And so the baseball trading hasn't stopped. Plenty of players are just moving up in value. Right now, we're just putting out IPOs for basketball and hockey players. And we've just got a couple a week right now. Normally we have 5 to 10, depending. We're just putting 2 out a week right now because the holidays and everybody has a lot of things going on. And so, we know that, you're not really thinking as deeply right now about which players am I going to buy and what am my strategy going to be. We're thinking about how I'm going to get through the next month, is with the new versions of the virus and everything else. We just want to, be happy and be calm and spend time with family and spend money on getting all the presents purchased that are sitting on some ship in the middle of the ocean still, right? So, we're only doing 2 weeks, but we've had some great movement. Like usual, sells out, within seconds. On Tuesday, we had a sellout. Tomorrow, we have Cooper Cup from the Rams coming out. Pretty awesome. Great ball player. Um, I mean, that's that. Like, if you said, who's your pick? Who are the guys you see as like, well, this would be like a guy I would want to grab personally if I was. I'm sorry, I take it back. Cooper Cup's next week. Tomorrow's is Shai Gilgeous Alexander, great basketball player. Cooper Cup's next Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah. But Cooper Cup is the guy that I would grab because he's coming out at $6 a share. Only 5,000 shares are going to be released. He's got a really good book value to start with, but he's leading the league in touchdowns. He's tied. He's leading the league in receiving yardage by a wide margin, and he's on target to add somewhere right now, somewhere between, and everything changes. He could get hurt tomorrow, and of course, if he doesn't hit these targets, things happen. But the way he's trending, he could add anywhere from $2 to $7 to his book value before the season's over. So he's selling at $6 next Thursday, which is a great number considering that he's already worth in book value $1.50. And so if you look at a stock, right, you go to buy Amazon. If you could get Amazon, early on, and someone said to you, you're going to get Amazon for $6, you'd be like, oh yeah, baby, let me have it all day long. Right now, not back then. Couldn't get people to buy Amazon originally. So Cooper Kupp is like, for wide receivers, he's like an Amazon. He was flying under the radar for a couple of years, right? Got hurt. He started doing great. Had the wrong quarterback. Put in the right quarterback this year, Matt Stafford, and look what that guy is doing. He's unbelievable, Cooper Kupp. Love watching him play. He reminds me of, Joey, remember the old possession-type receivers like Freddie Blitnikoff, guys like that back in the day, where he's fast. He's not a blazer, right? But he's fast. But he gets his hands on a ball, he catches it. And he runs really good routes, and he's tough. Really like the kid. Just a really good player. And we have, SAG coming up tomorrow. And he's a great young basketball player doing well. And we have, I'm a Giants fan. It hurts me to say this, but one of my favorite receivers to follow is a guy by the name of C.D. Lamb over on Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Will you watch him play a little bit this year?
Yeah.
Really, really good player. Very exciting. He's just at the start of his career, and he's doing some amazing things. He's had, basically his last year as a rookie. He's got some great numbers. He's talking about a fast guy, a guy who can fly, C.D. Lamb. And he's coming out very cheap in price. Great value, $1.25 next Tuesday. And as I said, next Thursday is Cooper Kupp. And I'll say some of the movement, you can tell that there are people who want to buy Christmas presents, because there are some people who made a lot of money, like lots of thousands. And some of the people who withdrew and sent us notes, thank you guys so much. We've done so well, and we're doing well for buying our Christmas presents this year, which is pretty awesome to hear, personally. It's really cool stuff. And trading floor is active as heck. So as I said, even though we're not currently IPOing too many baseball players, not now, but baseball players are still moving great numbers. And today, a lot of shares of Nikola Jokic, the Joker, have been moving like crazy. So a lot of good movement. A lot of, what I'm finding too, Joey. There's a lot of players who came out like in the lower release numbers, like in the $1.50, that range. And people didn't necessarily know who they were, what their value was. Like a guy like Alex Caruso, for instance, right? He was a Laker, really good defensive guard. Guy's been on fire since joining Chicago this year. He's one of the best defenders. He's guaranteed he's going to be one of the first-team defender this year in basketball. And he's available at only $1.72 on the market. Now, if you bought him when he first came on release, I think he was something around 50 cents or something like that. He's got a huge volume. There's a ton of shares moving of him. And he's one of those players that if someone bought him, let's say 50 cents, and now he's $1.72, triple your money. So if you bought 1,000 shares of him, you tripled your money very quickly. And this is happening like crazy. I mean, it's great to see, right? Because it's great for the health of the game. And more importantly, I love that the people who believe in us are making these really good numbers. They're getting a nice return on their investment. And, it's exciting now. What's really going to be exciting is in 15 years from now, which of these players made the Hall of Fame? who gets that $50 or $75 pop added to their shares, who's going to do really well for that,
I'm pretty sure that both receivers that you're IPOing have beat me at fantasy football this year. So that's got to be good for potential investors to know that these guys are being productive enough where they're costing me potentially that back
that belt.
there.
Oh boy, I was going to say that's not good. I want you to win that belt.
Yeah. I'll have to keep people updated. I mentioned on the show here I'm in the top 4, so I got to buy this week. But I'm pretty sure I'll have to double check. But I think Coop could be someone that I have to deal with in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So,
oh boy, I'm sorry. I root
keep
for
an eye on
him.
that.
Like him, living out in LA, I do like watching the Rams, especially since my Giants stink. But I hope that week he does great, but doesn't cause you to lose. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, let's
Okay.
let's have him get his 6 catches and a touchdown, but hopefully my guy gets 2.
Okay. 11. How about 11 catches, 149 yards, and a touchdown?
That sounds fair to me.
Okay.
I can get points from kicker, I can get points from tight end or whatever, but
Right.
I'll definitely have to keep an eye on him. He's fantastic to watch. I was actually surprised when Odell Beckham requested a trade. He went from basically being a number 2 receiver that's unhappy in Cleveland to being like a number 4 receiver for the Rams.
Right, but now he's happy. And having him on also. I don't know if you watched the game that just took place. What's nice about Beckham, and again, being a Giants fan, loved Beckham, right? Hated the way he left, hated what's happened since. And I know you're rooting for the Browns, but what I find interesting is he was opening up the field for Kupp in different ways than they had previously. When he was on the field and he was running, he was running just a simple slant. He caught the attention of a linebacker and a safety, and Kupp, who's normally been double teamed often because of how good he is, was wide open. Stafford hit him. Happened a second time. Stafford hit him. Like, okay, OBJ is not just he's not just trying to fake you out there. He's going to catch, right? He's not just a Trojan horse or something. But having him out there at the same time as Kupp, man, it really makes you think. If you're a defensive back, what do I do? I get the solid guy Kupp, let him beat me again. Or do I run the risk of OBJ grabbing it and just breaking one,
Yeah.
Because he still has that explosion. He's not as good as he was, but he still has that explosive ability. And I wouldn't want to be beaten by either one of them. But I think I'd rather be beaten by Kupp than OBJ, because OBJ is just going to throw it in your face.
Yeah, and OBJ, he has the ability to just score on any play. Not that Kupp couldn't do that, but Beckham at his height with the Giants was probably one of the top 3 receivers in the game.
Yeah,
at that
easily. Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald always being the best, but even so, I mean, he was going to a point where he would have been better than Larry Fitzgerald. I think he would have been the best at the rate he was going.
Yeah.
But moving away from football, because I did want to say, we forgot to talk about this last time, Gil Hodges in the Hall of Fame, one of the greatest things that has happened to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And for me, as a huge Gil Hodges fan and a huge Met fan and baseball fan, they finally righted this wrong. I'm friendly with Irene Hodges, his daughter. She's a wonderful lady, great family. His bride, Gil's bride, is still alive, 95 years of age, almost 96, living in the same house in Brooklyn all these years. And for Irene to be able to tell her mom after all this time that Gil's in, just says something's right with the world, right? Just the same way that Joe Poznanski and the guys over at the Negro League Hall of Fame were going insane. Bob Kendrick and Phil Dixon, they were going crazy that Buck is finally in. And again, with Buck, it's one of those things. Why didn't you vote him in when he was still alive, when he could have enjoyed it? It's just really sad. And Gil's been long dead, so it's a different argument. But glad for Jim Cott. I didn't necessarily think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he's great. I think he's in the Hall of Great. But Jack Morris is in, a lot of other Harold Baines, guys like that. So if they're in by that same logic, I could see Jim Cat going in. Tony Leva was an amazing hitter. I know you didn't get to see him before your time, but in his prime, he was just a super quick bat. One of the first players in American League that I saw as a kid. Amazing bat control, just a great outfielder. He got hurt. He probably would have had 2 or 3 more batting titles easily. His career was cut short, and he started late because being a Cuban ball player. He was a role model for so many. He loved working with young players. Just a great guy. So they made some good additions, but none better than Mr. Gil Hodges. Very excited about that. Great for Met fans. Yeah.
I actually, when I got the announcement, I was thinking like, okay, we're in a lockout. At least we have something to cling on that is a real feel-good story. Because we have, right. I think it was a total of 6 players that went in, yeah. And I was familiar with all of them. And usually, there's like one that maybe I'm not as familiar with. But even with Bud Fowler, when I was researching the Negro League players to include last year, that was a name that had come up, and now I think I'm going to add him this year, because last year I just stuck to the Hall of Famers.
Right.
Well, how can you not have him in now? So we'll be definitely hearing Bud Fowler's name in the future. And the other 5 already had a prominent place within the universe. So that's pretty exciting.
Really exciting. Really exciting. I think, I know we have a couple things we want to touch base on. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about some 19th century baseball before we get to the New York Mets, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah, so I have, we're going to be adding, for those of you not in the know, we're adding at least 1 player. Now, the only prerequisite is that they had to have started their career in the 19th century. They don't necessarily had to have been stars in the late 1800s. Like one of the players I added today, one of our great members, James Silverglad, said, oh, the guy you added actually just had a cup of coffee in 1899, but he made his presence in the 20th century. And he's correct, but he qualified just because he started his career in the 19th century, and that was Roger Bresnahan.
Mm-hmm.
We added him to the Toronto Blue Jays today to kind of upgrade that position.
Nice.
But I've got about a dozen teams looking for players. Mm-hmm. And I'll just give you a quick rundown here of who we've added so far, and then David's going to help me maybe fill in some of these gaps. We'll be making some announcements in the next couple of days. But Deacon White goes to the Red Sox.
Oh, he's on my list. Great third baseman. Yeah. Yep.
We have Jack Chesbro to the Yankees.
Okay.
Ed Delahanty to the Phillies. Natural fit there, obviously.
Okay.
Tim Keefe, going to be the 5th starter for our Mets next year.
Nice.
Willie Keeler rejoins the Orioles.
Nice.
As I mentioned, Bresnahan to the Blue Jays. And then in the West, we have Joe McGinnity to the Giants, Bid McPhee to the Padres. Buck Ewing's going to catch for the Diamondbacks.
I have him on my list too. Talk about an incredible defensive. I think I forgot who said Buck would have won like 10 Gold Gloves or something like that as a cat. Like if they extrapolate, incredible.
We added Cupid Childs to the A's, and Rube Waddell is going to pitch opening day for the Mariners in 2022.
Nice, very nice.
We have.
By the way, I think Joey DePoto Joey DePoto would love to have him on his current Mariners team. Yeah.
We've got Huey Jennings. We feel is a natural fit to return to Detroit.
Okay.
Hugh Duffy to the Brewers.
Interesting.
John Clarkson just added to the White Sox.
Yep.
This was actually someone you recommended last week, Mike King Kelly to the Cubs.
And by the way, a thing about King Kelly I was going to tell you, there's a great book by Marty Appel about him. It's out of print, but you can still find it like on eBay or Amazon. But I once read something that said if they filled 3 books with anecdotes about Mike King Kelly, it still wouldn't come close to doing right by his life.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
And then in the South Division, we have Jesse Burkett to the Durham Bulls. Roger Connor, who was the home run king prior to Babe Ruth, signs with the Royals. Pud Galvin to the Cardinals.
Nice.
Dan Brothers to the Texas Rangers. The biggest acquisition of the offseason, Cy Young to the Tampa Bay Rays.
Ooh.
And Jimmy Collins to the Miami Marlins. So,
are you sure the Rays can afford him?
What's that?
You sure the Rays can afford him? So he's going to be commanding a big
They're going to try to make it work.
Okay.
So the teams that we're looking to fill in the next month or so, we've got the Washington Nationals, the Montreal Expos, both teams in LA, Colorado, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Atlanta, and Houston are all in the mix for the players that are left over. So,
okay.
I
got two for you.
You got two?
Yeah, I got two for you. Who's in need of a second baseman, do you think?
Well, okay, so I would say Montreal could use one. I would say
this is a guy who would be great in Montreal. That's a great pick.
Maybe Pittsburgh, Montreal. All right.
Okay, either one. Bid McPhee.
Well, I actually have McPhee in San Diego.
Oh, you have him already. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. What about center field?
Center field. I mean,
well, maybe I should ask you. Well, maybe I should ask you this first. Do you have Billy Hamilton?
I don't.
Okay. Billy Hamilton set the all-time record for runs scored, 198. Really super fast, like incredible fast. I mean, he said it in the 1900s, and no one's come within 20 runs of him since. 198 runs scored. Unbelievable leadoff hitter, like the prototypical leadoff hitter of the 1900s. Super speed, super fast, dug the extra bases. And I thought it's ironic his name is Billy Hamilton. And the Billy Hamilton that we were familiar with from Cincinnati, unfortunately, the Mets, had such amazing talent, did nothing with it. If he could get into this Billy Hamilton's mindset and bunt like him and swing like him, he would have been a super duper star now. So I thought he would be a good name for you. Billy Hamilton, great center fielder.
All right, so we'll probably have some news tomorrow or Friday regarding Billy Hamilton, because the phones are lighting up now. General managers in the Utopian looking to now sign Billy Hamilton as a
awesome
reference from David Rubin here.
Awesome. Well, I owe you a couple more now, because you already have Buck Ewing, Bid McPhee, Deacon White, and I already gave you King Kelly. So a couple of the ones that I really was looking at. There's a closer you could have, Tommy Bond.
Spell the last name for me.
Bond, like James.
Okay.
Okay.
You have again a lot of these teams I think could use a closer. Montreal has Reardon. Washington has Doolittle and Storin. That could be a good fit there for one of those teams, perhaps.
Got another second baseman for you. Guy by the name of Monty Ward, Ward.
Monty Ward?
Yes, fantastic second baseman.
Okay.
And how about a right fielder? George Davis.
So, all right, I actually, ironically, George Davis is going to there's two teams talking to Davis right now, and we're announcing that tomorrow.
Okay.
So George, because there's probably, I've got 6 other names here that we haven't mentioned that are within a day or two of signing, and George Davis is one of them, and that could be happening as early as tomorrow.
Nice. All right, well, I've got one more name for you tonight. I owe you more. How about a shortstop by the name of Jack Glasscock with an unfortunate name?
Now, spell that last name for me.
Glasscock.
Glasscock. What's his first name?
Jack. Interesting player. I won't ruin the info about these guys, because it'll give you and all the other GMs and the scouts out there some fun figuring out who these guys are, but some really good names for you. Yeah.
Great. So we're going to take into consideration all these names that David has named tonight. Again, we've got about a dozen teams looking to sign players. Now, keep in mind, every player is going to add one 19th century player. It doesn't mean we're limiting it to 32 players. So if we get, 40, we could see a Houston or a Montreal or a Durham, teams that have less history to pull from.
Right.
Obviously we're not gonna make the Yankees any richer than they are. Like, we're not gonna add, like, Yankees are gonna get Yankees and Dodgers are gonna get Dodgers.
Right. Giants get
actually,
Giants. Right.
For some of the early 20th century players that we're adding, Zach Wheat was added to the Dodgers today.
Dodgers, yeah.
I've got some other examples. Early Win signed with the
White
Washington
Sox?
Nationals.
Oh, Nationals. Okay.
And actually, and this, we haven't even made this official yet, and it looks like it's just pending a physical. Heine Manouche is added to the Washington Nationals as well.
Yeah, nice.
Give them a little bit of depth at that outfield position. So
nice.
We'll have updates tomorrow and Friday with some of these players that David has mentioned. Now, this part of the show, we'll kind of end on this. This feels like the movie Groundhog Day. We're going to talk about the Mets managerial search. We still don't have a manager. So the three names that I keep seeing pop up are Buck Showalter, Matt Quattrero, if I'm saying that right, and Joe Espada. Is the holdup basically that nobody's in a rush because there's nothing else going on right now, or what's going on? Are we in second and third interview mode here?
Yeah, so there are a couple things. The Mets had looked at about 14 candidates initially, right? They whittled it down to 6. Billy Epler had the initial 6 interviews. 3 people weren't moved forward, including Bob Guerin, who I thought would potentially be, in that final mix. Wound up with 3. Okay. Quintaro is the third base coach. Bench coach with Tampa. He was third base coach. He's a long background in the game, a really great analytics guy. He and Kevin Cash do a lot of thinking outside the box, work great with analytics. He's Cash's right-hand guy. He's the guy who actually goes and tells players when things are not working. I mean, that's what a bench coach does. Apparently, he's very beloved by the team. So if he's delivering tough news and he's still beloved and he's got great working relationship both with the manager and the front office, that's something in today's game that's really important. He is looked at as a future star manager. He's interviewed a couple times already. He's one of those guys that definitely, if we don't bring him on as manager, they might try to work out a deal to bring him as our bench coach, or like as a manager in waiting under Buck if they choose Buck. I mean, there's a lot of things potentially in play with him. Espada is a former Yank. He and Epler worked together for 1 year. He was a coach for the Yankees for 1 year. And, of course, he's been the bench coach now for the Astros, right, under 2 managers, A.J. Hinch and Dusty Baker. So 2 very different styles that he's worked under, and he's done equally well as the bench coach with both. He replaced Alex Cora when Cora got the job with the Red Sox. So he's really beloved within the game. He's a lifer, really bright guy. Again, he's interviewed a couple stops. I think he interviewed with I don't know if it was the Giants or Philadelphia last year. He was a finalist for a couple of jobs. Really bright guy. He did, from what I understand, he did unbelievably well in the interview. They were very impressed by him, Epler. And, of course, Buck Showalter really needs no introduction. I wouldn't be able to do him justice in a short time, but Buck's been one of my favorite managers to watch because I love his preparation. You're never going to out-prepare Buck. He comes in and takes a team that's usually in chaos and brings order to that chaos. I thought he deserved a much longer rope with the Yankees because Joe Torre came in and benefited from the work that Gene Michael did in the front office and Bob Watson, and the work that Buck Showalter did in the dugout, and Torrey came in and was almost given a robot to just cruise and not blow it, and that's what he did. Buck Showalter was great. I think he is probably going to be their choice, but you never know, because now what's happened is Billy Epler was solo the initial interviews. And what's happened is, to come back to your question, Steve Cohen has a day job. He does have another job. He has a $1 billion company that's really important, and his Mets are really important. And so, realizing that it's Christmas, that people have obligations, and that Billy and Steve are going to be doing these interviews in person, they needed to be able to do them with a couple days between, over a week's time, to give Epler and Cohen enough opportunity to talk about each one, to figure it out, to really, get into these interviews and have some deep discussion. And these, from what I understand, are between like 5 and 8 hours each. They had Quintaro yesterday, Tuesday. Tomorrow is Espada, and Friday is Buck. And from what I understand, they're a little bit later in the day. A lot of times these interviews start like 9 or 10, 11 in the morning. From what I understand, I'm not sure of the time, but I think they're starting somewhere between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. And they're in person, and they're going to be intense. And, in the old days, like if you took someone out to dinner, you would watch, if they ordered soup, are they seasoning the soup before they take a bite, or are they trying a bite first? All the little tricks that you look at. So if they're going to dinner, I'm sure those will be, there'll be things considered, but they're doing a really deep dive. And I think from last week to this week, what Epler and team did, was make sure that there are no hidden skeletons in the closets of any of these guys, because Lord knows the Mets have had enough issues with that. And so I think they vetted them well, and they know what they're getting. And hopefully they're going to make a really good decision. They've got 3 very different talents, 3 great baseball guys. I would have to say I wouldn't be upset with either of the hires, at either of the 3. A lot more faith in this process than when they grabbed Callaway just because he was a hot name that was going to be hired by the Phillies or another team, and he was just a pitching coach, and he was just, I don't know, he never came off well to me, and I love Rojas as a dude. He's a great dude, great baseball guy. He was put in a really tough situation. Wrong person, wrong time. Great future manager. I'm sure he'll do well with the Yankees, just coaching third base, learning even more, figuring out what he could have done better. That's why I really think Showalter is going to be the guy. He's the one with the experience. But if he's not, they've got 2 bench coaches that have basically been leading 2 very successful organizations, right? Both recent World Series teams, both heavy into analytics, both heavy into player development. And I think we could benefit from what any one of those guys brings to the table. So it's going to be interesting. We should hear early next week, because Showalter's interview is Friday. I don't think we're going to hear this week. I know they wanted it done by Christmas. So Christmas is next Saturday, a week from this Saturday. So at least by the next time we speak, early in the new year, hopefully, if not next week, we might be able to do a show next week, maybe a brief one. But if not, we'll definitely have a manager the next time we speak, which will be great. Yeah.
So I'll keep the group posted as to the next time David and I will get together, usually on a Wednesday night. And hopefully by then we do have some good news. Show it off.
I know you've been watching this.
Queens.
I know you've been watching this, Joe.
I'm halfway through it. I watched the first 2 last night. I love it.
For those who don't know, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Is basically now Dr. Evil.
Yes. For those who don't know, 30 for 30, ESPN celebrating the 1986 Mets. It's a 4-parter, brilliant, great stuff. A lot of fun. Even if you're not a Mets fan, just reliving the World Series against the Red Sox, which is an amazing World Series, reliving the Astros series, the playoff series with Nolan Ryan, and the characters, right? You don't get better characters than Gary Carter and Keith Hernandez and Darryl Strawberry and Dwight Gooden and Lenny Dykstra, my good Mookie Wilson, right? You don't get better characters than that. You don't get that all on the same baseball team anymore. So.
And what I love about the documentary, it actually starts in like 83, like with the Keith Hernandez trade, and it goes through the Carter signing or trade. And right now, I think episode 3 that I'm starting tonight. I think we're gonna. It actually, if I remember from the trailer, I think they're gonna start with the end of the '86 season. So we're not even at that World Series yet, but
Right.
it's so good.
It gets even better, and they do at the end. They do have a kind of a where do they go from there kind of
Oh
thing,
yeah.
which is always nice to see. You know, I'm sure you probably feel this way too. For me, one of the real stars in the whole thing, and I think you'll see it even more over the last episodes, Kevin Mitchell.
He's great.
I've always loved him as a player. The whole BS, I still don't know why Frank Cashin, who's a really honorable guy, bought into the BS that Kevin Mitchell was a troublemaker. He never was. Kevin Mitchell used to stop trouble. He would get in there and he would stop trouble from happening. But, he was a young urban guy who was easy to point the finger at because they made up all these stories about him. He was a super guy that every player loved. The entire team, didn't matter if you were Hispanic or African American or white, didn't matter. They loved him. He was a guy you wanted a foxhole next to you, and he could play every position. Give him he was this. He was the Swiss Army knife for the Mets. Throw him wherever you need him, and he'll go there. Great player.
I actually, in 2016, I was an executive at a credit union in Sheboygan, and I met one of his cousins, and he debunked all of those stories.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, they're all false. He didn't kill a cat. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. I even asked him about the. I guess there's a myth that when he was called upon to pinch hit in Game 6 of the '86 series, and maybe they'll cover this in the documentary, that he took his jockstrap off and he was booking flights to San Diego, San Francisco.
Yeah,
so
didn't happen. Yeah, didn't happen.
He debunked everything, but I'm going to check it out tonight. So yeah, we'll get back to you in the next couple of days. We'll let you know when David and I will be back, but we'll make sure that we have some news about the Mets. And
it's funny because Kevin Mitchell. I was thinking about him the other day, right? Because I rewatched it. And I was reading the book through, and I was saying to myself, if we had IPO'd him when he was a rookie in '85, right? So here you have a guy that everyone looked at as this utility player. Right, he probably would have been released somewhere between a nickel and a quarter. Then he had an MVP season with the Giants. He was that cog on that team, unbelievable ball with 30-plus homers, 100-plus RBI. I mean, killing the ball, playing really good D, led that Giants team. If you bought him for a quarter, my goodness, he would have been jumping up and down, clicking your heels together when he won the MVP and when he was, killing it because out of nowhere, right? You don't get a lot of that in baseball, right? You have all these prospects who come out of their college programs or out of high school, and they're blue chip prospects, and they rise through the minor leagues. You don't see a lot of guys just come and shock you, which is why probably Trout, even though he was a great ball player in high school, and the Yankees were drooling over him, but he didn't get a lot of publicity coming out of high school. So he really wasn't on most people's radar, certainly not at the level he is now, right? But Trout came in and he was a starter from day one. Kevin Mitchell was a bench guy that ended up playing multiple positions till he was comfortable, and until the Padres and the Giants found the right spot for him. And look what he did afterwards. I mean, my goodness. To me, again, I'm always looking, Joey. I wish I could play. I would have made so much money, but now I can't play because I'm part of the company. But I always look for that kind of ball player, like those Kevin Mitchells, those real diamonds in the rough, I was really into Jonathan India before the season started. I really thought this kid's got it, and I was proven right, when we IPO'd him and looking at the season he had. That's the great thing about baseball. We can study it all we want. We can read all the books, but you still got to play the game on the field. And until they're under those bright lights, until they're on that green grass, you don't know what they're going to do.
That's great. So, David, thanks again for joining us tonight. I know when I'll see you again. It won't be the next time, but January 7th when we stream Game 6 of the '86 series. David Rubin's going to be with us, John Keeney, Tim St. Clair. We're going to get a bunch of Mets fans watch an old game and relive some memories. It's going to be Friday night, January 7th, but I'm going to see you before then for sure.
Yes, for sure. All right.
Thanks,
everyone,
Joe. Everyone have a great night. And
don't forget the link.
We'll be in the cafe tomorrow at 5:30 with some of these names David brought up tonight.
don't get the link for 401 for you guys. Make sure please just don't go on 401 Sports willy-nilly. Use the link provided on the page, because that way you'll get referral bonus from doing it.
Yep, and I'll so it's a pinned announcement, but I'll repin that so that it's the first thing that people see the next time they log in. So again, thank you to David Rubin, and we'll see everyone tomorrow in the cafe at 5:30 Central.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear who those players go to, my friend.
Oh yeah, big news tomorrow coming.
Awesome, as always.
Take care.